Hi, I'm Mr. Lowe, the English teacher. Today I'm going to talk about themes in young adult literature. Generally, YA Lit means ages 12 to 18, but in my experience it can go a little bit younger. Themes are a great way to categorize different books. I'll be talking about the African American experience, gritty reality, heroism, and psychological or mental differences such as Asperger's. In America, the African American experience is a paramount theme in our history. The history of America probably starts about 1610, and the history of African American slavery starts around 1610. Although slavery ended in 1865, a system of Jim Crow segregation continued to operate in the South until 1965. Even today, black Americans have bitter encounters with police and white racists. A book which really brings out what it was like to be an African American child growing up in the South during the 1920s is Black Boy by Richard Wright. This book is a graphic and this book is graphic and realistic and will give a high school student a very good idea of the condition of African Americans in the South during the early 20th century. Richard is beaten by both blacks and whites and threatened with rocks, fists, knives, and guns. Another book which reflects the African American experience is the highly regarded classic To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. This book depicts a small southern town around 1930s, which is segregated between blacks and whites. As numerous writers have pointed out, the racial code in the South meant that even the poorest white trash was superior to an African American. Furthermore, if an African American male was suspected or accused of even showing interest in a white female, he was probably as good as dead. In this story, a white female named Mayella accuses a black man, Tom Robinson, of trying to rape her. The case goes to trial, and despite an excellent legal defense, the jury finds Tom Robinson guilty. White mobs in the town try two times to drag Tom out of the jail and kill him. The first time they are unsuccessful, the second time they succeed. Although Tom is a good man who, as his attorney proves, could not logically have attacked Mayella, that's beside the point. When this type of confrontation between black male and white female happened, there was only one ordained outcome: the black man must die. The theme of gritty urban reality is brought out in a book called Down These Mean Streets by Perry Thomas. This story of a black Puerto Rican boy growing up in Spanish Harlem in New York City has drugs, violence, and even imprisonment. When Thomas wrote this book, he made literary history because here was a realistic depiction of the life of a poor black boy beset by poverty and various deprivations. The story tells the truth about Perry's life, including all the violence, the curse words, the fights, and the social conflict between a boy who was Spanish as well as black and white America, which Perry felt was prejudiced against him. I tell my high school students that these books will show you a world that is real, but that, fortunately, you will never have to experience. William Golding's book, Lord of the Flies, takes us to a deserted island in the South Pacific. An airplane carrying English choir boys coming back from a concert in Asia crash lands. The adults die, but the children live. Some of the children are 10 to 12 years of age, and some of them are only 5 to 6 years of age. One boy, Ralph, together with his friend Piggy, attempts to organize the group and get them to take care of the little ones, provide food and water, build shelters, and operate a signal fire so that they can be rescued. Another boy, Jack, does not like this idea and says that what he really wants to do is hunt animals for meat, paint his face with war paint, and dance around the campfire. Gradually, Ralph loses control of the boys, who, for various reasons, go over to Jack's side and find that it's more fun to behave as savages than to behave as civilized, rational people. At least two boys are murdered during the ensuing events as civilization completely breaks down on the island. Finally, the British Navy comes to rescue the survivors. The story is set against the backdrop of World War II, a time when evil seemed to reign both in Europe and in Asia. I think the book shows us how easy it is for the thin veneer of civilization to fall away, exposing savage instincts which are always present just underneath the surface. Two books which exemplify the theme of heroism are Harry Potter and The Kite Runner. Harry Potter is a series of 7 books by J.K. Rowling, in which our hero, Harry Potter, fights the evil Voldemort on several occasions. In the 7th book, Harry has to walk to what might very well be his death. He has to allow Voldemort to use a killing curse against him. Harry is only 17 and he has just fallen in love with the woman who will be his future wife. But first he has to confront his nemesis, Voldemort. He has no way of knowing if he is strong enough to survive the fight. As he walks toward the woods where Voldemort is waiting, he feels that he is going to die. In the end, he duels Voldemort with courage and grace and kills him, saving the wizarding world from its worst enemy. A reviewer wrote about The Kite Runner, a novel by Khaled Hosseini. Quote, parts of The Kite Runner are raw and excruciating to read, close quote. And that is certainly true. This book, which takes place mostly in Afghanistan, depicts rape, stoning, and vicious beating in very graphic detail. The hero of the book is Amir, who as a boy betrayed his best friend. Amir is privileged, so he's lucky and he's able to escape to America. But when he finds out that his good friend Hassan passed away and left a son, he realizes he has to go and rescue the boy. The rescue is very harrowing, and in fact, Amir is beaten to within an inch of his life. Finally, he's able to bring his friend's son back to America and hopefully to give him a new life. Finally, I'd like to talk about the theme of psychological differences. There is a condition known as autism, which means that people diagnosed with this disease have a different way of thinking and have great difficulty forming social relationships. Some highly functioning autistic people, also diagnosed as Asperger's, are characterized by great intellectual abilities. One book describes a boy who has Asperger's named Christopher. The book is called The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime by Mark Haddon. Christopher knows all the countries of the world and their capitals and every prime number up to 7,057. He relates very well to animals but has no understanding of human emotions. Christopher is confronted by several mysteries. Who killed the neighbor's dog? And where did his mother run away? Christopher finally figures out the 2 mysteries and reunites with his mother. He also seems destined for a brilliant career as a mathematician. Before I read this book, I never understood what Asperger's meant. The story of Christopher gave me a very good understanding of a typical high-functioning Asperger's person. The last book in this category of psychological differences is a book called Look Me in the Eye. My Life with Asperger's by John Elder Robison. This book is autobiographical and tells about the strange behavioral quirks that earned John the label of, quote, social deviant, close quote, while growing up. Although John had great expertise with electronic circuits and machines, he had very poor expertise with people. For example, he does not like to call people by their given name, and even calls his wife, quote, Unit 2, close quote. John finally found happiness going into business for himself, repairing and restoring fine European automobiles. These novels and many others, war novels for example, enable my students to go into worlds in a book rather than in reality. They get to understand something about the African American experience, life and death heroism, blood chilling reality, and psychological differences such as Asperger's. My name is Mr. Lowe, the English teacher, and I encourage you to try one or more of these novels and enjoy a vicarious literary experience.